Yo, what's cracking? What's popping? What's shake, everybody? Happy Friday. It is episode 51. 51. Damn. That's crazy. I'm sorry. But anyway, episode 51
Awesome.
of the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace. Grace, what up?
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm cozy. I got my high socks on. It's nice weather. It is not hot today.
Is
Good
not
day.
good. Like, I'm so glad, you know what I'm saying, that it's cooled down. But somebody told me that there's going to be like a spike next week. And I'm just like, can we just be over with the heat?
Why do we pay taxes?
Right,
Why?
right. But
This is not what was promised.
otherwise, you have a decent week.
Yeah, week's been good. Week's been good. Busy but good.
Okay.
How about yours?
Not too busy actually. I had quite a few either cancellations or people on vacation this week, so it's been super super chill. So aside from that, I rewatched Morpheus just to give it a second chance. Not Morpheus, Morbius, and
Yes.
yeah, it's it's still the
Opinion
same.
still stands.
Still, it's still the same. I think it was like number one or number two on Netflix. So I was just like, all right, maybe I was harsh, you know what I'm saying, last time, but nah, it's still,
It was accurate.
it's still, yep,
We tried. We tried.
we tried,
We gave it a
100%,
fair chance, I think. Yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, how many times have you watched it?
You know something? I've only seen it the one time that I saw it in the theaters, actually.
Okay, okay.
So I haven't given it as many chances as you have, but I think I feel the same. It's kind of like, I think the biggest thing was that I mentioned when we did the breakdown is that I don't think it was actively bad, like the way a lot of people were saying. I
Mhm.
just don't think it was like actively good. You know what I mean?
Correct. Yep.
Like maybe if it came out like a decade ago, we would be like, wow, this was great. Just because I think we had a different standard of like superhero films, but we're kind of past that. You know,
Sure.
Sony's like very behind.
Actually, I like that. 10 years ago would have been good. It would have,
It was.
because there were, I would say this sits on the level of solo films like back then, that's not really connected to any other superhero universe,
I agree. That's what I'm saying. I feel like it's very comparable to things like pre-Iron
Mm-hmm.
Man. Like I think this would have been a hit, but it's like now I think we're just used to like a different level of like sophistication and layering that comes with these superhero films that it just doesn't stand apart
But
anymore,
let me ask you, because after watching this and then I watched the post credit scene again, right? So if
Mhm.
they honestly just deleted the post credit scene, would the movie be better for you? Like any
A
connection
thousand
to
percent.
like just eliminating Spider-Man total. If it's just like a solo Morbius film, would it have been better to you?
Oh, 1,000%. Because I think that end credit scene just showed how unaware Sony is when it comes to the craft that it
Mm-hmm.
is to like weave these stories together the way that MCU does so
Yeah.
seamlessly or has done for the past decade. Um, and it just shows how they don't really know what they're
Mm-hmm.
doing and they don't really know what they're talking about because they did something that was so negating of how we understand the events from No Way Home to have
Mm-hmm.
happened, right? Like, first of all, there would have been absolutely no reason for Vulture to show up in this universe because it's not the universe that Tom Holland exists
Right.
in, which is where the spell pulled all these villains
Mm-hmm.
to. And secondly, let's just say for some random reason he was sent there for some random reason, which just doesn't make sense with the consistency of the
Mm-hmm.
spell. Why is he still there after it was reverted? You know what I mean? So
Right.
it just showcases, I think, how unaware Sony is. And it's just, yeah.
Let
So
me,
this film, I think, is a very good example of that.
let me ask you this. This is gonna be the final question. We don't have to talk about this movie ever again. Okay. So if it comes down to Vulture, right? In Homecoming, is it safe to assume that the Vulture suit was made of salvage from the people who attacked Earth?
Yes, 100%, because Vulture, kind of his origin story was, he was originally contracted to clean up the city, and which was going to be amazing financially for
Mm-hmm.
him. And then the DODC took territory, and that's what basically was the catalyst of him becoming a
Mm-hmm.
villain. And so he basically, like, salvaged the scraps of the Battle of New York, and also coordinated, like, just stealing all the other tech. I guess, like,
Yeah.
I'm sure, like, they found ways to figure out when shippings were happening, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we saw it in
Mm-hmm.
Homecoming. So yeah, I would say it's so safe for him to have been made, like his suit being made through the scraps. I think that was very well showcased in
Okay.
Homecoming.
So.
See, I think they mentioned this on the last breakdown for Morbius, in that, if, let's just say, we can get past the fact that he's in this
Mm-hmm.
universe. First of all, he was in
Mm-hmm.
jail when he got
Mm-hmm.
pulled, so there's no way he would have had his Vulture
Mm-hmm.
suit. It would have been really cool, where I could have overlooked that nonsense, if he showed up in the Vulture suit that was showcased at the
Oscorp.
end of the second Amazing
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
yes, film, because that would have confirmed what we all assumed to be, which is that this is the Andrew Garfield universe, and that would have been pretty
Yeah.
dope. Like, I think that would have just been great,
Mm-hmm.
because it would have been like, for those who know, would be like, oh my god, this is the Andrew Garfield universe, like, for sure, and this is the confirmation,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been kind of dope, and I could have overlooked the huge mistake of them just not doing it. Just literally just
Right.
pitch the idea to your friends at the MCU. Just be like, hey, we think this would be awesome, and then they can easily just tell you, like, dude, the on the basics, this does
You
not
know
work.
what? But
This
listen,
does not work.
listen. I'm sure, honestly, there were some Marvel friends, and they were probably like, "Yeah, this is a terrible idea." And then Sony was just like, "We're Sony. We got Spider Man.
Sony
We
literally
got
thought they
Spider
did something.
Man."
I swear. No, they literally thought they did something. They're like, dude, this is gonna be epic. It's so marvelous. But
Oh,
it's like, no, no, no. This is literally you trying to be. It's like the little brother, like, who thinks he's doing the same thing his cool big brother is doing, but it's actually
right.
not. But it's like, aw, look what they tried to do.
Oh man. Okay. All right. Enough Morbius talk. Okay. I just
There
had
we
to
go.
had to mention that I saw it, and we will never have to speak about it again. But I do have another topic, real quick.
Sure.
Okay, because I'm diving into this comic, this Can comic. Okay, and I'm just saying that me reading this, even though it's not in relation to the MCU whatsoever, it's just a regular comic book. The story of it is kind of crazy to the point to where young Kang, he falls in love with someone who turns out to be an earlier version of
Renslayer?
no, um,
Oh. Oh.
Moon Knight. It's a woman Moon Knight. Yeah,
The
right.
twist!
And this is during the time of like ancient Egypt or whatnot. So this is way before the Moon Knight that we know. This the character, you know. So I stopped right there. I got my bookmark at that moment, but like once she popped up, I was like, oh shit, he fell in love with Moon Knight. Oh, so
Dude.
yeah, and just seeing it,
That's
yeah, it
crazy.
is
I love
crazy. It's
that.
it's a good comic, and just reading it is just like, yeah, we have all these characters now that we're seeing on screen. And for me, this is just more interesting. Kind of going in reverse because a lot of people know these people from the comics first, and now I'm kind of going back from film to comic, and I'm just like, oh, this is pretty dope now.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I love about the fandom, is like, you can get like a character introduced, an Easter egg, whatever the case may be, and you can have absolutely no idea what it is. And that's where people get like incentivized to open up the comics and figure out what the hell it is, get
Hmm.
to learn more of it. And then you understand these characters and these stories in such an intimate way that when it does start to make sense on screen, it's like you get rewarded as a
Look
fan.
at that.
And yes, this is just so we can have a cycle of buying things. But you know what? Our souls have already been written off to Marvel a long
Yeah,
time ago.
yeah.
So that ship has
They're
sailed.
doing such a great job. Sorry, Sony.
I'm
Jab, 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 jab.
I'm a servant. It's done.
Okay, so tell me, being that we're talking Marvel, let's stick with Marvel and let's start with wrapping up D23. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect.
Great. So, with everything that I brought up last time, there were more things that you had that we didn't get to. So, you should kick us off and let's get this thing going.
Let's do it. Okay, so D23, the Marvel panel started off with a production of Rogers the
Mm.
Musical. And I've seen snippets. It just is so funny that this is how the Marvel like panel opens up. Like they use the same cast, I think, from like how we saw them in
Right.
Hawkeye. And I just think that's pretty freaking awesome. Like if they already have this production
Mm-hmm.
done, just bring it to Broadway. Put it on tour. Let us
Right.
enjoy Rogers the Musical. Like I would not be surprised if that's like around the corner. I feel like that would be so
I
funny.
feel like just something like that, you can't just have a one off, even though I'm sure they shot it a couple times just for production sake. It's just something that even if it's just kind of like how the Lion King did it, they have their live production as a play or whatnot. Why not do it? Kids will go see it just because they love Marvel, just like the people in the movie who love the story of New York. So I feel like people will go see it.
Hell yeah. I mean, it was done live action.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was not recording. It was live action and all. So I feel like they're ready. They're ready to hit the stage. They know their
Mm-hmm.
numbers, you know? So be on the lookout, guys. This is coming.
Cool.
I believe
Cool.
it.
Cool.
But now to like some of the more like serious talk. So we'll start off with like the Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Obviously we did get a lot of information on the Comic-Con breakdown and Marvel's panel there, but we got a little bit more extended footage when it comes to the trailer in D23. So I'll kind of talk
Mm-hmm.
about it. So in the extra footage, we get Queen Ramonda speaking with the UN. There's delegates of the UN that snap at the Queen about security dilemmas. Example, the use of vibranium in weapons of mass destruction. And they even include the fact that um, vibranium cannot be detected by metal detectors, which for them is a security risk. And so these are some of the criticisms that are being thrown at Rwanda. We will get to the badass way that she handles this. It's freaking insane. However, I want to throw a question at you
Mm-hmm.
first. Being that vibranium previously stated to be one of the strongest metals on Earth, or the strongest metal on
Mm-hmm.
Earth. But now knowing that it's not detected by metal detectors, I'm wondering, does this mean that once Magneto comes into the MCU, is this something that he cannot manipulate? Is you see what I'm asking? Like, what do you feel? What are your thoughts on that?
That's Listen. This is news, breaking news. Okay, and I like it. If it's something that's, let's say, not detectable by metal detectors, who knows the other, like, specialties about it. And if it's something that Magneto can't control, then if and when mutants do decide to show up and he shows up, I wonder who would attempt to try to wield vibranium against him. I feel it'd be interesting. So I don't know what to think.
Yeah, because I feel like this. I mean, Magneto's powers, like, there's a reason why they're so elite because everything is made out of metal,
Mm-hmm.
everything. And so, being that vibranium doesn't get detected by metal detectors, I feel like that means that it's not actually metal as we classify
Mm-hmm.
it, like in general. Which I'm thinking this is maybe setting the precedent that Magneto actually can't manipulate vibranium, which I think is actually pretty cool. And I wonder if it's because he is a character we're going to see at once mutants get involved in the
Right.
storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited. That excited me. That excited me. I felt like that was, for me, that looked like a red flag, in the direction of like the mutants
Yeah.
appearance.
Yeah.
Um, so as part of this like extended footage, Ramonda states like, yes, my king is dead. Obviously this could be referring to King
T'Chaka.
T'Chaka, but I'm also thinking it could lean towards King T'Challa, being that we know there's going to be a funeral scene and it's safe to assume it's going to be his. It's TBD which one she's referring to here.
Can
Let's
I
see.
stop you right
There's
there?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Because now that you're saying this, I'm kind of thinking back into the trailer, right? And as far
Yes.
as the trailer is concerned, and they had it looks like they're all walking in white, and you see Shuri carrying a helmet. So with that being said, it was the suit before the Black Panther movie that had a helmet, and then every suit after that was pretty much it came from the necklace. So, if anything, let's theorize and say that that helmet could belong to T'Chaka, being that he's of that model of suit, if that makes sense.
Sure, sure. Actually, that's a really good observation because I kind of forgot about that. Like, that's right. Like, the newest versions of the suit have the helmet and everything else coming out of the necklace. That's
Mm-hmm.
right. So I guess it could be that, or it could be just the earlier version of T'Challa's suit as well. But I like that observation you made because honestly, I missed it. I missed that.
Okay.
Um, and okay, so here this cuts into some footage showing American soldiers attempting to steal the
Mm-hmm.
vibranium. And we saw some little snippets that seem very similar to the original cut that we saw, and we did comment on like maybe we're going to see exactly what was so mentioned in the original film, that the reason that Wakanda has hidden its technology, hidden its actual what it's done in the past like hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
years, and for the most part the world just thought it was a third world country, to protect it and preserve it from the outside world. Obviously, with the events of the original film, in the end, it's revealed really the powerhouse that is Wakanda. And I think this is where we're going to see exactly that there's forces outside that are trying to penetrate the walls of Wakanda and steal the
Mm-hmm.
vibranium and all the power that comes along with. And so this conference ends with Romanda signaling to the Dora Milaje to bring in these soldiers that we saw attempting to steal that
Mm-hmm.
vibranium, and just basically like shows her. It just is such a power move. It just comes off so powerful and so badass, which we expect nothing
Mm-hmm.
less from Queen Ramonda. Like, she's a badass, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But I thought that was so cool to see, just because we don't really get a lot of footage from her. We've seen her very briefly. Like, even Black Panther, we didn't really get too much of her. So I think that was really cool.
Hold on, I'm looking up her name real quick, just because
The
the
actress.
actress herself, Black Panther. I want to say it's Angela. Is it? Is it? Is it? Yes, Angela Bassett. She is known throughout black culture to be like one of those strong female black leads, like, and that's in every single role, you know. And then we get her in the first Black Panther, and it suits her being queen, you know. But uh, she's quote unquote queen mother to Queen, oh no, to King T'Challa, and he's of course in charge, you know. So if this movie is post T'Challa passing, this is the role that I expect from her to play, just because of every other actor that we have on cast that's Team Wakanda. If there's somebody that has to lead, it has to be her. It can't be Shuri. It can't be, uh, I don't want to say Michonne, but you know who I'm talking about. The actress from the Dora. It has to be Angela Bassett. And I think that with that being said, she's going to kill it as the queen, just like we would expect. Just that family, I guess. T'Challa, T'Chaka, all of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Real quick, do you freaking hear like all this racket like that's happening upstairs?
Yeah,
Little
I do.
funks and dude, my neighbors are
What's going on?
insane. Do
What
you
is
hear
going
that?
on?
No, I don't know what that. I swear to God, there's no other explanation than they must be throwing bowling balls at the floor. I
Oh
swear to
my
God,
goodness.
it sounds like things are rolling. It's
I'm
insane.
sorry.
They're nowhere to be seen during the week. During the day, they're nowhere to be
Mm-hmm.
seen. This is odd, honestly, because usually this is what they start doing exactly at like at 10 o'clock in the night. It's the strangest thing
At
ever.
10
I just
o'clock at
needed to vent
night?
real quick.
Man, I'm sorry.
Dude, it's
I feel
insane,
like
Lord. Like,
if
we're
it's
not we're not light sleepers,
but but
but
with
still.
with that being said, I'm sorry. Now we're talking about your apartment life, but like at 10 o'clock at night, like it has to come to the point to where we have to like maybe do like a neighborly knock, be like, yo, I can hear that. If you could please just keep it down. Did you ever have you attempted
Or
that?
just be like, hey, are you guys okay? I'm concerned. It just sounds like a mess
Yeah,
up there.
yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to hear
it's
that.
it's just a lot. I just
Yeah,
gotta bring it up.
yeah,
I just
yeah.
gotta bring
Okay.
it up. But that kind of wraps up my notes for Black Panther. We did get a little bit of extra Namor footage
Mm-hmm.
as well, but those were like I think the big points that I thought were pretty
Yeah.
amazing. And I think it does set up the stage a little bit more of what we're going to see in the film. And so from here, we have a little bit more Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we also got an extended version of the previous footage that was released at Comic-Con.
Okay.
And so part of the footage we see a back and forth between Kang and Ant-Man. So some of the things that Kang
Wait,
said.
let me ask you. You weren't at D23,
Yes.
right? You didn't go and then
No, I
just not take me, you know what I'm saying? Because you're reading this as if you were there. You're like, so what we see here, what I saw.
I investigate so thoroughly, and I have such ties that I might as
You
well have
should
been
have.
there.
Yep.
I
yep,
know things.
Yep.
Oh no, I would never offend you in such a
was
way
like-
and go without you. Honestly, that's like
Oh,
separation.
definitely.
That's a betrayal
Yep.
right there. we would have gone on like a break.
Mhm.
Like, hey guys, we're going on a season
Yep.
finale. Like,
Sorry,
break.
guys.
We'll be
We'll let
back
you
in,
know.
like, 3 months
Maybe.
after we've healed. No, I would never
Gotcha.
do that. But so that back and forth between Kang and Ant-Man. So Kang kind of starts off saying, "You're an Avenger, huh?" And he continues, "Haven't I killed you before?" Speaking to Ant-Man. And this is like exciting because the thing is that Kang is gonna be, it's not gonna be He Who Remains that we
Sure.
saw in
It's
Loki.
gonna be
This is
another
gonna be a
one,
much
another
more
variant.
intimidating.
Mhm.
Yes, a much more intimidating and like fierce variant of this character. And I don't know if I sent it to you, but there have been like circulating images of I forgot the actor's name on set, but he is like buffed out, and it's like, and I saw something that said like, "Oh, dude, like I don't know how Ant-Man and the Wasp are gonna go after this guy."
That picture
It's gonna be
of
crazy.
Jonathan Majors, that was actually for him. From what I read, it's him shooting, because he's in the Creed 3. He's like the antagonist boxer in that movie, so they had to put him on put some size on him. So he was already kind of jacked, but they definitely put some mass on him for that movie. Yeah.
Man, I'm excited for that. I like the Creed films. Those
Yeah.
are fun. And it continues on. He says, "All Avengers die eventually." So it's just very intimidating. Like, I can't wait to see this unfold on screen. And he mentions that something was stolen from Kang, and only Ant-Man can steal it back. And this is cool because this is kind of going back to Ant-Man in his first film, where we learn that he's like a super like skilled cat burglar. You know, so it's kind of an interesting concept to think that Kang's going to be hiring Scott Lang for this like heist, you know, to re-steal something that was taken from him. Let me see real quick. Oh, and
no, never mind. Continue. When you're done with Ant-Man, I do have a question for you. So continue, please.
Sure. Okay. And so obviously this begs the question: what could have possibly been stolen from Kang? Because it's not revealed. And a lot of the discourse I was looking at, and a lot of the discussion I was seeing on like Reddit forums, was, what if he's referring to Renslayer? Because in the comics, he like kidnaps her, and kind of, it's not like exactly a mutual love relationship when it starts out. So he might be referring to her, like he may have, like, not in the traditional sense of like, oh, I lost my key, someone stole them, or whatever the case may be, but she just like didn't want to be near him and left. And keep in mind, in Loki, we see Renslayer just go through a portal and walk out with some.
It was like a note,
like a
note
plan,
from
or
Kang.
kind of talk about it. Yeah. Exactly. And so this may be like exactly what he's referring to. I mean, obviously we don't know. There's very little that we know about the film, but it just it made sense to me when I read it online.
So, if this is the case, right, and we're going to theorize here again, if it comes down to this Kang and he's looking for a Renslayer, do you think he's looking for a variant, or he's looking for this Renslayer that we know of?
That's so hard to say. It is so hard to say. Because I don't know if it was this. I mean, I would assume that there are variants of Renslayer. I can't remember if they set a precedent to that. Like maybe if like people in the TVA don't have variants, but I think they do. Like, do you remember that?
Well, yeah,
like,
because that's how they established that everyone was a variant, because they found the other version of Renslayer in another like timeline.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Done. Yep. Okay, there we go. That's what I needed to know. So honestly, it's I don't know. It's TBD. I have a feeling if he's referring to one of them, it would make sense for it to be the Renslayer we met because she did run off in a portal.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that I feel like that would make sense. But of course, there's a possibility it's a different
The
Renslayer, right?
only
There's a
the only
multitude of.
way, or then the only reason why I brought that up is now because if we're saying if it's the Renslayer that we know, then this Kang that's in Ant-Man is definitely the person that's He Who Remains. Because why would he send her to go find that version of Kang if he weren't to become who he eventually becomes? You know what I'm saying?
Repeat that one more time.
All right, so He Who Remains sends Renslayer a note to tell her to go find this Kang, Ant-Man Kang, right? Are you following?
We don't know
No,
that.
we
We don't know
don't
what the note
we
said.
don't know because we're theorizing, and
Oh, okay, gotcha. I'm caught up. Okay, continue. Yeah.
because you're saying
I was lost. No, but I
that
got you.
possibly
Yeah.
this Ant-Man Kang is possibly looking for Renslayer, and by that we're theorizing it could be the Renslayer that we know. Is that what we're saying?
That's kind of something I think is very possible. Like I think the thing that he lost could very well be Renslayer, and if obviously there's so many different variants, but I feel like it would make sense for it to be this one since last time we saw her she just kind of ran off, you know?
So this still falls under. Uh, I think this still falls under my theory of everything coming full circle. If it is, just because of if he sent her to go find this version of Kang, and let's say it's to repair the TVA and repair the sacred timeline from the multiverse, then if he does succeed, then he does become He Who Remains. If that makes sense.
Oh, I see. Okay, I definitely see the theory you have. Kind of like a nice little
Right.
loop. Like in the end, it's the same. The thing is that the thing I'm thinking of though, however, is I don't really think that the He Who Remains sent Renslayer a note to find this like conqueror version of
Mm-hmm.
Kang, just because in the comics, like the conqueror version of Kang almost like forcibly puts her in the relationship that maybe as I think I haven't read it in
Mm-hmm.
detail, but I feel like if anything, maybe it was to get warn her to just run off or something. Like I feel like it's not as likely for her to like her mission that she went on was to go find this variant
Mm-hmm.
of King. But I do like your theory of it kind of coming full circle. Like I do like how that sounds, just because it's very
Mm-hmm.
complete. You know what I mean? It sounds satisfying to me, but I have a feeling that it wouldn't be to draw her closer to that king, because then I feel like she would have found him, up to this point, and it doesn't. It seems like he doesn't know where she is yet. Like she's lost to him, but maybe that's purposeful on her part.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that's kind of where I think. But it's your theory is like sounds so satisfying to me. So I wouldn't be mad at that.
What's today's date? September 16th. That one time we theorized 3 years ago that it was coming back to this cat.
We have to we have to do this just because we've been on a roll, guys. Like if you've been keeping up,
Mhm.
like we've been kind of cocky about this, and we're just gonna keep it going.
Yep.
That's all I got for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So the next one I got is Secret Invasion. Did you see the trailer
Yes,
to
I
this?
did. But before we did that, before we get there, let me ask, because I wanted to bring it back to Black Panther real quick.
Sure thing.
Just in terms of the story and everything that you've heard so far, there's pretty much three factions that we know for sure that are in the movie. It is Wakanda, there's Atlanteans, and then there's the people trying to get vibranium. That's pretty much all of Wakanda's conflicts summed up. It's them and Atlanteans.
I would say so. I feel like there might be like a 3B. Like let's just say Atlanteans is 3A. I feel like there's a 3B because it does feel like there might be like a separate section of Atlanteans. It doesn't because we've talked about it. There's like we see Namor, and then we see some that are like a blue
Correct.
turquoisey skin color, and I'm wondering if that's like a different species of
Okay.
Atlanteans. So three for sure, and I'm thinking there might be like a 3A, 3B,
Okay.
you know, if we're talking
Blue
about Atlanteans.
Atlanteans
Yeah.
and human Atlanteans. Okay.
Yeah, like more
Okay.
human
Okay.
looking. Yeah.
All right. I was just curious. Sorry. Sorry to
Yeah,
interrupt.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think that's it. No, that's totally fine. That's totally fine. So Secret Invasion. We saw the trailer. It's releasing spring of 2023. The scene that I wanted to mention, and this was, I think, extended footage of it. I don't think it was the original trailer. I don't think it was included or like the
Mm-hmm.
teaser. But we have this conversation between Rhodey and Fury. Did you see this
Yes.
piece? Yes. Okay. They're talking about the secret invasion, and it's revealed that the invasion actually began 15 years ago. So Rhodey says, 15 years ago, the Pentagon brought me in on a special project because they had known of the Skrull invasion this whole
Mm.
time. So this key piece is actually kind of revving up this theory that I think some people have mentioned ever since Far From Home, that the Nick Fury we've seen thus far in the MCU was actually a Skrull all along. And the 15-year mark that's being mentioned here is actually pretty significant because that kind of covers the time span of the MCU within the world, about a decade and a
Mm-hmm.
half. And so this is kind of like really pushing the fandom on that side of the theory. And, being that the Fury that we're seeing, just like he doesn't have the patch for a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
scenes, and he has like I think a distinctive like different essence to him than how we've seen him previously. I'm wondering if this is true. Where do you stand on that, or how do you feel?
Well, the Fury that we saw, we saw. Of course, we got a picture of it months ago of Old Man Fury, and now we kind of got like a good idea of where I would say where he's at in terms of like we see him come onto the scene full bearded out, and he looks, I don't want to say beat up, but he looks definitely older, right? And right now his attitude is just like I'm here. I was like, I forgot the specifics, but I don't know. He seemed more so standoffish on some like I'm going to do this alone or whatnot, like on some real loner type vibes. And it was just then from there we see, or I just remember seeing that one thing that I post, that one cut that I posted on the Instagram of him coming out of the beam, and he looks like clean cut. And then from there, I'm assuming that's when he's just like, all right, I'm here, I'm mentally activated, I'm back in the game, you know? So, with that being said, as far as the scrolls being, let's say they invaded 15 years ago, who's to say that he's been on the ship for quite a amount of time, you know? He's been working with the scrolls that he got, or that he uh, got cool with in Captain Marvel. He's been there the whole time, and we've had just the Skrull Fury kind of working under him because he's in the trailer as well, you know. Um,
Mm.
and so far, it's been pretty much the Skrulls that were quote unquote running Shield for a bit, along with along with Hydra, coincidentally, you know. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know how to break it down. It's a lot to process.
It's a lot. It's a lot. I think the whole concept, the whole like storyline of Secret Invasion is a lot to kind of swallow because we're gonna find out that a lot of people we thought we were working with are not the people we're
Mm-hmm.
working with. And I love the what they did with the score and the trailer because it is so like foreboding. It's so like suspenseful and like anxiety
Mm-hmm.
provoking. It almost reminds me of that like iconic score from Psycho. It's like that scratchy
Mm.
violin. I love it, and I think it sets the tone for what this is going to be. And I'm excited because I think it's like it's leaning towards that side of the Marvel genre that they're kind of exploring with like the suspense and the fear factor element. And I'm excited for it to have like a whole series that's just in this kind of a mood because it's obviously going to be very contrast to some of the things we're getting right now, like Miss Marvel, even She-Hulk, and things like that. So I like
Well,
that balance.
anything as of right now, if it's specific to Nick Fury, I would almost borderline put it in the same category as Captain America Winter Soldier, or actually, no, just Captain America Winter Soldier, in terms of this is just another level of mystery when it comes to spy and espionage, you know? And that one was a perfect movie in terms of genre when it comes down to finding out that Hydra is actually controlling Shield, you know? So I think this, especially with the score music that you brought up, it reminded me of that to the point to where it'll be a different, because this is a show, correct? It'll be a
That's right.
different show in comparison to the shows that we've gotten, but I think it'll be similar to the feel of Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I think if it's like if we can kind of try to pair it with anything else, I feel like it would align with that. And I like the comparison you made to the reveal that the Skrulls have actually infiltrated Earth the same way that we found out in Winter Soldier that Hydra infiltrated
Right.
Shield. So I like that
Mm-hmm.
parallel, and I think that's a good comparison to go off of
Yep.
for sure. So everything else that I have, so I'm gonna leave the Marvels to the end because everything else is just actually let's do Marvels first because everything else is just kind of like really
Yeah.
quick like little
Okay.
side notes that I have. But the plot to the Marvels has been released, and I think it's actually really cool. So the plot revealed that Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel, and Monica Rambeau keep switching bodies because their powers are entangled. And so we also get the return of Goose, the Flurkin cat. And so what we see is obviously at the end of Miss Marvel, we see Carol Danvers appear in Kamala's room, and it's kind of like TBD as to where Kamala went herself, and we get to find out here. So the way that it worked was Captain Marvel took Miss Marvel's
Mm-hmm.
place, and then Miss Marvel took Monica's place, and then Monica took Carol Danvers. And so Monica ended up on a moon with Kree warriors. Um, Kamala ended up, let's see, floating outside the space station where with like Fury inside the space station. She asks him if she can join the Avengers, which is very
Mm-hmm.
Kamala
Mm-hmm.
of her. And of course, we know where Captain Marvel ended up. She ended up in Kamala's
Right.
home.
That's interesting just because they are all of three separate different origins. One of the space stone, one of the bracelet, and the other of going through Wanda's, I don't want to say wall. What was it again? What's it called?
Um, why am I spacing on it? It was coined
Does it have to
by
do with the shape like a
uh
pentagon? It's not. It's like a hex. Hex? Is it the
no
hex?
the hex. The hex.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
coined by Darcy
yeah.
herself.
So they're from three different origins, but now somehow their powers are entangled. I'm confused. There it is. I
To
am
how that
confused.
happened, I don't
Yep.
know, but it's piqued my interest, so I'm excited to see what happens. Especially because I think it's going to bridge the gap to what happened or where did Monica go after the end of WandaVision, because we obviously see her connect with the
Mhm.
Skrull, and so it makes sense that she ends up in space with
Mhm.
Fury. So I think that's really cool, and I think I mean I don't think I wrote down time wise whether it's just I mean it's obviously going to come I think after Secret Invasion. So I'm curious to see how those two are going to blend time
So
wise.
let me ask you, back to Miss Marvel real quick. The blue person that they found the bracelet from, did they establish that it was from their dimension, or they just needed the bracelet to bring them back to their dimension?
The bracelet is from their
Sure, but I'm
dimension.
talking about the
Mhm.
blue person with it.
Oh, they never really established anything about that. They have not. This is one of the many things that irks me because I feel like they could have done so much, and it's kind of like, okay, well, what about the blue guy? You didn't explain anything there,
She-Hulk
so
should explain
it's
it.
TBD.
Give it to a She-Hulk. Talk to us about the blue
Give it to us.
person.
Come on, talk to us, please, Lord. That's kind of all I have for Captain Marvel, but I'm excited, or the Marvels. I'm sorry, I'm excited though for this to kind of be like a redemption for Brie Larson as the character, just because it's not her fault. I think it was very much
Mm-hmm.
directional. Why I think Captain Marvel didn't do great, because she's an amazing actress with amazing
Mm-hmm.
range, and so I'm really excited for her to get a spotlight after so many years. It was actually kind of heartbreaking. I saw a couple of interviews that she was on, and I think they asked her like, "Oh, like how long would you like to play like Captain Marvel?" And she's like, "Well, does anybody want me
Mm.
to?" Because obviously there's a very audible and vocal kind of opinion when it comes to Captain Marvel overall, and it kind of broke my heart. Like, I felt really sad because at the end of the day, like, these actors put in their all, like, for the role. They have to do a lot physically to prepare for it, and I don't think we always think about it as a fandom when we give our opinions. So it was kind of
Random.
sad.
What's your favorite Brie
Yeah.
Larson movie?
There's this movie that came out called, I think it's The Room or
Room.
Room. Have you
Yeah, it's
seen it?
called
I think
Room.
it's on
Mm-hmm.
Netflix. Yeah.
Okay.
That movie, like, I did not realize the range that she had before that film. Like, I seen her in what's the other one? It's like the one with the boyfriend. Do you know what I'm talking about? The weird
It's not
one,
weird
the
because
comic
that's my
booky one.
favorite one.
No, I love it. I love it. That's why I like it, because it's weird. It's very comic
Yep.
booky. That's all I've known her from. So I knew that, and I also knew her from 21 Jump Street and things like
Mm.
that. So to see her in something like Room, it was very different, but she did so well, and I think it gave her a lot of credibility as an actress overall. Like, she's
Sure.
amazing.
Okay. Scott Pilgrim is the movie.
Scott
Yep.
Pilgrim. There
Yep.
you go. All right, so these are all just kind of really fast ones. So for Ironheart, it's just revealed that Anthony Ramos is going to be playing the Hood, which is he's a practitioner of like the dark
Okay.
arts, or dark magic. I'm not really too sure or familiar with the character itself, but that's kind of cool because I do like that actor. Are you familiar with who I'm
No.
talking about? He was in this like Spanish dancing movie, but also he was in Hamilton.
Yeah. Still no.
You haven't seen
Mm-mm.
Hamilton, dude?
Uh,
We have
I
someone.
know. Oh, I feel like I've seen him somewhere. Yeah, I'm
He's a
looking at
great
his
actor.
filmography. Yeah. No, he has a familiar face, but I've never really seen him in anything.
Well, he's joining in. You need to watch Hamilton because it is amazing. You
Isn't
will
it
love
sad?
it.
I thought it was. I
Um,
heard it was like a sad play.
it's a mix of everything. I mean, it's like
Mm.
biographical. It's really good though. It's super good. It's really funny. It's great. I highly recommend it. I know many of the songs by heart because it is that
Okay.
good. It's
Okay.
amazing.
I'll take your word.
So he just he got casted in Ironheart. It's executively produced by Ryan Coogler. It's gonna be like a mix between like tech versus magic, is what it seems, which is a weird concept to think about, but I'm excited for
Did
it.
you hear about Ryan Coogler and the Avengers?
Directing like the last
Yeah,
one, the roster. I heard that. Yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. Let's just see what he does with Black Panther
I think
first.
that's amazing. Yes, and then we can pass
Yep.
judgment.
It's like if he has just kind of
um,
like I like it with the idea of the Russos. They got two Captain Americas before the Avengers. You know what I'm saying? So they scored well with both. So if he scores well with both Black Panthers, then I'm Secret Wars is secure. There it is. If they choose him.
I yeah, I like that. I like the way you said that. I think that's a cool parallel to kind of compare the directors and like the film, the way that I like how you said that. That was cool. I'm down for it. But so Echo filming has been concluded. Maya Lopez is gonna be there's gonna be a lot of her indigenous history being blended into the show. So I'm curious if we're gonna see something of kind of like how Moon Knight and Miss Marvel was able to really
Mm-hmm.
showcase the cultures that it really represents into the
Mm-hmm.
show. So I'm excited about that.
Indigenous
I know
by
Echo hasn't
like
been.
are you saying like because initially yeah they were with the Russian suit mafia or whatnot, but is she of she's
Native
Native
American.
American, just like was that her dad that
I
okay,
believe so.
yeah, because I know him to be Native
Yeah.
American, so
So I believe that's what they're referring to. So I feel like that's really exciting because I think they did really well with Moon Knight, and I think they did even better with Miss Marvel when it comes to that.
When it comes to
So
culture,
I feel like that would.
not story.
What was
Yeah,
that?
when it comes to the culture, just not the story.
There we go. There we go. And we do see Kingpin revealed with this covered eyes, kind of like what we see, when Hawkeye ended that final scene with Kingpin, very much like panel for panel, mirrored the comics where we know that he's not dead, but that he's like I think blinded or something like that, and it does seem like that's going to be the storyline here. So that is kind of cool. I'm kind of getting more excited for Echo, where I really didn't have feelings towards it very much. So I'm excited for the news that they just revealed.
You think there will be a Hawkeye cameo?
Possibly. I know I've heard people say. I think it's just like fan theories or whatever, that maybe Daredevil will make an appearance there. I think there's a lot of possibilities. I mean, it would make sense for Hawkeye to come back just because she was also part of his show. So it's hard to say right now.
Just curious. Just throwing out theories. That's what we're doing. That's what D23 did.
That's what we do here.
Yep.
That's what we do here. I think that is all that I have. I'm just kind of glimpsing at my notes.
I saw
really
there
quickly.
was an update to all of pretty much the title cards, and I saw they updated Armor Wars too. Do you have anything on Armor Wars?
The only thing I have written on Armor Wars is that chronologically it's going to be taking place after Secret Invasion.
Okay.
Yeah. And the last thing I do have is actually on Fantastic Four. We're really hoping to get something like a character, like, some reveal in that sense, like who's going to play what. All we did get is that Matt Shackman, who is connected to like WandaVision, Game of Thrones, The Great, will be directing. So that's going to be cool because that's a really, that's a director that has a lot of consistent good projects on his roster. So that's exciting, but very dry when it comes to Fantastic Four announcements overall.
Yeah, they're going to keep that, like, I'm going to say if Secret Wars comes out from 3 years from now, like Fantastic Four is going to come out around that time. So maybe like towards the end of the 2-year mark, like that's when we're going to get a little bit more information on it. So maybe like 2024 is when we'll even get who's casted as Mr. Fantastic, so we'll just keep an ear out for all that.
They're gonna hold out. I mean, I believe the Fantastic Four is gonna be the first film that is released on the final phase of this saga. They gave us like a rough date, so I mean, honestly, I think you're totally right. It's probably we're probably not gonna get any reveals until maybe like 6 months before, if that.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. You said that wraps D23?
That wraps D23.
Okay. Awesome. All right. We are going to keep it Marvel because it's nice and bright and shiny as opposed to the darkness of the Sandman. Okay. So, hold on. Let me switch it. Boom. Sorry, guys. I know I got the image of the Thunderbolt still up from the other day. It's super dope. Can't wait. But we're talking She-Hulk. Episode 5. Yes?
Yes,
yeah.
Episode 5.
And it was weirdly named, right? It was like Mean Green trying to get in them jeans or some shit.
Yes. Which is basically her, like, profile, like, description or whatever on, like, her Tinder. Is it Tinder? Her dating app.
Let's call it Tinder. Y'all know what we're talking about. Yep.
I wonder if, like, She-Hulk can get on Raya. Do you think she'd make it?
I don't even know what that is.
I think I'm saying it correctly. It's like a dating app, but you have to actually get, like cleared to join. Like, you have to be famous enough to join it.
Get out of here. It's too much. It's too much. I'm sorry.
Like, you have to get, like, validated or something. It's kind of like when, like, I guess, like, people on IG will get, like, the little, like, confirmation thing next to them. Like, they have to get, like, there's a process to get on there. Yeah. There's a process to get on there. I have a client who's been trying to get on there for years.
I'm not.
And they just started accept her.
What is it? I'm not influencer enough to even think about that app or even hear about that app. Like you bringing that up, like all I've heard of Tinder, eHarmony, the basic ones that has billboards around all of LA. So, what'd you call it? It's raw something?
What was that? Which one?
The
Raya?
Raya. Yeah, I'm not cool
I
enough.
think I'm saying it right. I'm pretty sure. Like I have that one client I'm telling you, she's a performer, but like she just keeps trying. She's like, I have more followers now, please. Like it's like she's knocking at the gates, like trying to get in. It's really funny. I hope she gets it one day. Just I think if you bother them enough, maybe they'll just let you in. I don't know.
This is a dating app, right?
It's a dating app for like famous people. I guess it's like tiered. I think even within it.
Wait. So with that being said, this isn't the one that performs on film, right?
She does like a plethora of things.
Okay.
She has like a presence on social media.
Okay. All right. Just curious, because I swore that person had a BF at the gym I used to work at, but we'll just leave it at that. Okay. Trying to get on dating sites when we got boyfriends, but what else? We got it.
We continue. We move on. Okay. She-Hulk by Titania.
Right. So She-Hulk. It opens with the lawsuit, right? And she's at work. It starts off at the law firm, and then she's hearing about it or hearing more about it. Her boss hears more about it, and her girl's trying to comfort her, but I don't think it's working in a way just because everybody's kind of arguing over the name She-Hulk. Is that correct?
It starts off with like a whole commercial for this beauty like skin health line that Titania has started under the name She-Hulk, and it gains a lot of popularity because I think people think it's like actually involving She-Hulk, which has obviously gotten a lot of traction in recent weeks here in the MCU. And so she's making like a lot of profit. She has this pop-up store, and she's just racking it in. So obviously, we left Jennifer Walters last episode where she gets served with paper. It was last episode, right? Yeah. She gets served with paperwork because she's being sued now by Titania for trademark purposes. And she's kind of like, dude, this is my name. Like, and that's exactly what she has to prove in this episode. She has to prove that this is a name that she has been associating herself with long before the trademark submission on Titania's behalf. And so that's kind of the premise of this episode, and the B plot is probably my favorite B plot thus far because we get to meet the Edna Mode of the MCU, and I think his name is Luke. We don't get a full name just yet, and I haven't had a chance to look, but I'm very curious to know if this is actually someone that is in the comics because it would make so much sense.
Explain who that character is in the comics.
No, I'm saying I wonder if there's a correspondent to the comics because it would make sense for there to be. I just haven't had a chance to look into it. Okay. But but it's so, I don't know. It's a funny thing to me. This is one of the things of like, it's like, do superheroes have healthcare? Do superheroes have this? Like, this is the guy who does like the outfits for like many of our beloved heroes, and so I think it's really funny that they introduced him in this, and I think it's so perfect.
Say with this character, right? And of course, this universe is. I know I'm skipping to the end, but this universe is totally separate from Netflix. So being that we saw what we saw towards the end of this episode, do you think Matt Murdock is now just becoming the Daredevil here?
No, I feel like he's been well established. Like, I know this isn't the Daredevil that we saw on the Netflix, but I do not think this would be like year one Daredevil. I feel like he's had maybe some, like, he's kind of a veteran at this point in his vigilanteism.
Do you think he's still rocking the black tie, like head tie over his eyes, and like all black, just active gear? Because he was training in like in some Under Armour. Like that was like the start of Daredevil in Netflix. So do you think it's like that, or do you think, let's say...
No, I think he's well established at this point. Like I think he's well established at this point in the MCU, just because I don't think we need to see like his like origin story in like the same way that we kind of played with in like the Netflix series, just
Gotcha.
because it's been done. I think they would treat him closer to something like Tom Holland Spider-Man, where we're kind of plopped in the middle. Obviously Tom Holland, like even then, like he was only maybe like 6 weeks into his vigilanteism, but we never saw like his origin story, just
Hmm.
because it's like it's been established. I think it might be like that, but I feel like he's a little bit more on his way when it comes to his superheroism, because as we see at the very end, it seems like he's been an established client of Luke here at this like underground um, fashion store. What do you
Right.
what do you call it?
That.
Yeah, I'm say
That.
that fashion store.
Hmm. Oh.
Silence.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I heard you, and then I didn't know where to go from there. I'm sorry.
So let's start from the top. Let's start from the top.
Okay.
Okay, so we see the pop-up store that Titania is like signing autographs in. It is I don't know if you ever went to the pop-up store that like Kylie Jenner had at one of the malls, but like there was one, and I went because I wanted things, and it just reminded me very much of this because there's like lines outside and stuff like that. But Jen confronts her, and pretty much she's just like, she has such a, how would you call it, like the accent that this actress is employing for Titania, like the manner of speaking.
That I can't really name it in terms of how she's speaking. I just know her to have an English accent in The Good Place,
Yes, in
you
real
know.
life.
So, oh, in real life too. Perfect. So, I didn't know
Yeah.
that. But when it comes down here, I don't know.
Is this Valley Girl? Is this like a Valley Girl
I
accent? Is
need
that
to
what this
listen to it
is?
again. I need to watch it one more
I don't
time. I
know.
don't know.
She does such a great job. Like I almost don't even think it's her voice, because it's just so well crafted and so distinctively different than how I've heard her before.
Hmm.
It's really funny. Like she does a really good job.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with it. Say when at this pop up shop, like everybody's just on some like you said, like with the whole Kylie Jenner situation, just lines wrapped around the block. But everything in there, I was with She Hulk when everything kind of sounded the same. So I'm just like, are they different? But me, I'm a man. I don't know this stuff. But ladies, this well, Grace, explain it. Explain all the differences in the makeups. Like I don't know. It looked like she was just reading the same title just for different products.
Yes. I forget the specific products, but I mean, like, there's a plethora of things. There's toners, there's serums, there's moisturizers, there's facials, there's face wash. And I think like the funny part was just that because everything was so specific, and I think it was along the times of like elixir toner serum, which can be very similar in terms of products, like consistency purposes, etc.
Hmm.
So being that they had like the same name, it's like very safe to assume it's probably the same content within it.
Right.
I think that was like the bit in
Hmm.
that segment.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, Continue. Where do we go from there? Because I already jumped to the office where the boss seemed confused. That was where the episode started for me.
See,
I
okay,
skipped
so
over that.
obviously, and we're gonna go into the straight into the office. So obviously, this isn't over. Jennifer Walters, despite the fact that she liked to claim that this isn't bothering her, this is evidently bothering her. And her best friend definitely picks up on this. But she, before we even get to kind of like the legal element of this episode, we get her best friend. Let me double check the name. I know I wrote it down. Nikki, right?
Hmm.
So Nikki takes one of the other lawyers that we've seen in previous episodes, because he explains to her that this new shoe is popping out, and it's like he wants to get two pairs, one to wear, one to stare at. It's like this limited edition Iron Man like sneakers,
Hmm.
and he lets her in on the fact that there is this one guy who creates the super suits for all the superheroes. She's obviously interested because I forget the way that one of the lawyers says it, but She-Hulk wears this suit that's obviously not well fitted for her,
Hmm.
but it's like the only thing that she can wear because she's so
Hmm.
huge. So Nikki goes on this venture to try to get She-Hulk on the list because they're so exclusive. And that this is kind of the storyline we mentioned with Luke and just meeting the Edna mode of this universe, which was really fun. And so back into the office, they do mention that it's not smart for She-Hulk to represent herself, so we get a different attorney. I think her name is, I have it written down, Miss Book, I think, or Brooke. I can't trust it because we know how my iPad likes to spell check. My heart says it's Miss Book, but or Brooke, but it says Book here.
Okay,
We'll just go with
for sure.
it. But I don't know. This is a fun episode here because obviously we get into the trial and it's like they're trying to figure out ways to defend the name because we know that Jennifer Walters didn't like the name to start off with, you know?
Yeah. Book is right. Mallory Book.
Okay, there we go. Thank you for double checking
Yeah.
with us. But they end up building a pretty good case. So in the last episode, since as Jennifer Walters, she wasn't really getting a lot of hits on like the dating app, so she decides to get this new profile under She-Hulk,
Mm-hmm.
and this is where we get the title. Like, do you want to repeat it because I don't have it written down?
No, because I don't remember it.
Me, green, and in your
It
jeans,
says
something
something
like
in the
that.
jeans. It's just like, oh, here it is. Mean green and straight poured into these jeans.
Love it. Love it.
That's
And
wild.
so this just becomes so embarrassing for Jennifer Walters because in order for her to prove that she had connected with the same, she essentially had to flaunt all the horrible men that she kind of ended up dating. And, they established the fact that, she is She Hulk, and
Yeah.
so Titania loses the case. She is obviously very upset and like threatens She Hulk, saying this is not over. It's got kind of where it cuts off, on that storyline, that
Do
is.
you think, or actually no, do you remember seeing the ad for the Iron Man Force? There was an ad for the Iron Man Force when Jennifer was looking for a job on her couch. It was on the computer screen as well.
I did not.
Mm-hmm.
I did not. Did you catch this beforehand, or did you see this
I caught it
after the
beforehand. I was
episode?
like, oh, look, Iron Man
Nice,
Force. Cool. And then
nice.
that guy, the lawyer, was just like, oh, I'm looking to get these Iron Man Force, you know? So I was like, oh, I thought that was pretty cool they brought that up.
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and also it's a at the end of this episode, we don't get an end credit scene, which is kind of sad because I feel like it was
I was
established we're going to
waiting.
get one
I was
every episode.
waiting,
I
Marvel.
know,
You gave
and
it
you
to
never
us. You
wait.
gave it to us every episode so far.
Damn. What is the deal? But we do get some pretty. I mean, obviously, every episode ends with like this artsy pieces like from the show or whatever. But this time we get something that's kind of cool. We posted about it um, in the evening yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
and we get this picture with Nikki, and I'm spacing on the guy's name, but it's the other
Pug.
attorney here or paralegal. And
P-U-G.
in
Pug.
there you go. And in the background, we get a ton of shoes. So some of them, we obviously see him holding the Iron Man 4s,
Mm-hmm.
but we get shoes that are easily identifiable. We see Hulk, we see Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, Moon Knight, but we also get shoes of heroes that we have yet to see in the MCU and have been long awaited. So we see the shoes of, what's his name? What's the one with the lasers called?
Cyclops?
Cyclops. So we get Cyclops, we get Deadpool, we get the Thing. We have all these shoes of like characters from like the Fantastic Four, X-Men, etc. that we have yet to officially be introduced in the MCU. So this is kind of cool. This is like their first on-screen confirmation that they're in this world. So I feel like these characters at this point are established in the MCU. We just have not seen obviously their stories as of yet.
I'm looking at the picture, right? And you got the zoom in on the Deadpools, right? And though they like as I see the Captain Marvels, the Hulks and all that, and even the Cyclopses, even though these characters aren't established, let's just say just for story's sake, if this artwork is in relation to the actual story, this belongs to the quote unquote famous designer of streetwear for superheroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's just say he's testing out ideas, and if any superhero comes in and let's say Deadpool, I forgot the name of the actual person, but Deadpool comes in and he's looking for a costume and he sees that colorway on that shoe, you know, it's like, it's like I actually want a suit that kind of looks like the shoe you got here, you know?
I see that. I see that. Although, like, the thing is that this is meant to be merchandise and people want to buy them because of the superheroes that are already connected with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's that way around.
Yeah.
I think I think like the chicken the egg is clear on this one. Like which came first. I feel like they got inspired by the superheroes. You know what I mean? Like
Okay.
that's what I'm thinking.
I'm looking to see what else do I see. Like there's even
It's
a
cool. Like
Hawkeye
this is
shoe
like
in there,
a
you
this is
know.
awesome. Like what else do you see? Because I think those are the big ones I noticed. It's hard to kind of recognize the other ones. Like they look familiar.
Yeah, there's a Hawkeye like top middle. There, I wish I could. I'm sorry, y'all. I don't have this picture available on the screen, but when it comes down to it, yeah, Hawkeye, Cyclops, Hulk, Captain
Wiccan.
America.
I think it's yeah, I can't think I don't know if it's Wiccan or the other son of Wanda in terms of the name, but we get this one in like the left corner just next to like the Iron Man one.
Yeah.
And it's green and it's yellow and it has the lightning bolt. So this is kind of like the parallel between his suit and Quicksilver's, except his is like green in some of the adaptations. So I
Hmm.
think that's Wiccan's, or you know, whichever one of the twins that
And
is.
there is a Falcon one too. Like if you look at the Iron Man shoe that he's holding, and you look at the red and white one above, that was the Falcon colorway in the comic book. So I would just assume that that's
Ah,
Falcon.
yes. Yes. That's right. This is pretty cool. See, I love this. I think this is like one of my favorite artwork from the end credit scenes. Like this is awesome.
I'm sorry, y'all. I wish I had this together. You know what? I'm gonna actually screenshot it and send it right now, just so you all can see exactly what we're
Just so
talking
you guys can
about.
see because it's pretty dope. Like this is great. Like this is making these guys officially can't like as like a part of the world. You know, it's like this is apparent that these are heroes that have been like active during this time. We just have yet to catch up to their story. So it's exciting. It's very
Yeah,
exciting.
definitely.
We even get
Why does it
what's her
keep
name?
up? Come on, picture.
Take your time. Take your time. We get America Chavez in the very upper right corner, right above Deadpool. There's like a pink and purple one that, like, for some reason she feels familiar, but I can't even tell you what character that might even be. Um, but this, I don't know. I'm obsessed with it. Oh, we get the Green Goblin. Do you see the Green
Hold on.
Goblin one?
I'm gonna find it. Let me. The
Okay,
picture's
okay.
almost up. Give me 1 second. Downloads. Okay. All right. So it's front and center. All right. So tell me, which one is the Green Goblin?
Green Goblin is right above the Captain Marvel, and if you see super closely, I feel like that's like do you I think that's Green
The green
Goblin.
and
I don't know
purple.
what it is.
The
Huh? The
green and
yeah, like
purple
the
one.
green and purple one. Yeah.
I can go with that.
Yeah, it looks like Green Goblin. And then we also get I think Black Panther are like the croc looking ones that are next to the Spider-Man ones.
Mm-hmm.
This is a cool picture. And if there's anything we missed or if there's ones that you guys catch up on, definitely comment down below. But this is a nice little Easter egg. And maybe this is why we didn't get a post credit scene because they know we're watching and waiting for it, but instead they gave us this juicy picture right
Wait,
here.
look at the last one. I think I want to point out. Say, look at her face, right? And her eyes are right in front of these. Do you think that's the Thing from Fantastic Four?
That's the one I mentioned. Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely the thing. I'm
Okay.
so confident. And under those we get, I believe that's going to be Vision, the ones right up underneath the Thing.
Oh, that colorway? He's not white. He's back to red and green.
I guess so.
Okay. All right. Back to She-Hulk. Was there anything else that we missed on here?
I mean, this was a very straightforward episode. I loved it. It was really fun. I loved the concept of them having like this, you know, designer and everything. And obviously, the Easter egg of this episode really was towards the end. Actually, yes. So we have Luke. Luke had She-Hulk try on one final outfit that she's like, you know what? I don't really think I'm gonna need this, and he's just like, trust me. I think this is her suit because we never get to see it. I think it's that little excitement that they leave us with, but I'm pretty sure this is gonna be her official superhero suit that he just handed to her.
Well, we still get a glimpse of something like in the trailer. Is that purple white, like
Yes.
that one, and then when we see it in the trailer, she's wearing some cool sneaks as well. So I'm assuming those shoes are his too. So I think it all makes sense. It's all coming together.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm excited about that. And then right before the episode ends, We see Luke get upset. Like, it does client confidentiality mean absolutely nothing to you people because they just left open this box that contains the yellow and red Daredevil costume, which hopefully signals that the next episode is when we're gonna get him.
Yeah, I think that is the case. I think I read it somewhere or saw it that it's established that Daredevil will be for sure on this next one.
Yes, and so I'm excited for it. We know that they got some chemistry going. This might be the one, and I'm just really, really pumped about that.
You're pumped for that chemistry. You're just
I
like
want the
it's not even
chemistry.
on screen yet.
I want
Okay,
the heat.
it's not there. It's coming. We'll see. We'll see for sure. I'm gonna think. Is there anything else that I want to bring up from this episode? Um, just the fact that the designer, he's an hilarious actor. I remember seeing him in. Did you ever watch The Flight Attendant?
I did not, and actually, I don't think I can peg him on any project that I've seen. So this is my first, I think, exposure to this actor.
Yeah. And surprisingly enough, that show was actually pretty good, and he was pretty good in it. So I was glad to see him. He's a cool dude.
That's cool. I mean, he was hilarious. I loved him. I think he played the role super well. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure we're not gonna. This won't be the last of him.
Oh, definitely, 100%. All right. So this was the light, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. We're moving on into the darkness over here, okay? And that is the darkness of Sandman because initially we thought it could go dark, or I didn't think it could go any darker after episode 4 in the restaurant. And now episode 6, it's like we finally meet the person who is supposed to be trapped at the way beginning, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Talk about
So
you want,
episode 5 was like, it's episode 5, the one that was like
Oh, episode 5, my bad.
just something insane.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just watch our last episode. We talked about it super briefly because it was just whoa.
It's a little wild. Yeah, wild and crazy.
It was a little wild. So episode six is definitely not that. It's a different turn here. And it's actually kind of cool. So yes, we finally meet Death, and Death is not the father of all these other, Desire, Dream, etc. It's just one of the other siblings as well. The second to oldest sibling actually. And we see Death meet Dream sitting on a bench feeding the pigeons. He's evidently like depressed. He's been on this voyage of recovering his items, which I think he believed would make him feel whole again, but ultimately it didn't. He kind of feels emptier than before. And he goes on this kind of journey with her, super brief, but it basically opens his eyes to something bigger and it gives him meaning again. And that's kind of the premise of this episode, along with other things, which we'll kind of get into.
Okay. So for starters, she greets him initially. I didn't know who she was until I think she even said brother or something like that. Or no, it wasn't until she had to be like completely honest with him or something, and then from there I was like, oh, okay, she's actually, if she's bold enough to talk to him like that, she's one of those deities, but like, say I like this episode for her because it's like everywhere they go, whether you think it's like some leisurely walk, it's actually not, and it's more so a purposeful walk for her because she's just doing her job throughout the whole time she's in this episode.
Yeah, and they have a lot of discussion on like their function, right? I think this is like the first time they're really using that terminology when it comes to what they do, who they are, their realms, etc. And Dream says, he was trying to find meaning beyond his function, and he kind of learns throughout this episode that his meaning is his function, and she really teaches them that, because this becomes kind of like take your brother to work day. Because that he tags along as she's doing her job, her function, which is guiding people into whatever comes next, right? So she's Death, the Grim Reaper, carries many different names, and it's we definitely get a very different look at death than we would have, I think, expected
Mm-hmm.
of the siblings. I think we may have thought this would be the most intimidating, but it's actually far from that. And we realize that she is just like this. I think she says something like, people just need like comfort and like a smile, like a genuine smile when they pass, and we see her like do this. And it's a really great episode, and I really like the take that they took on death, because she does her job very happily. She says, like, I need them as much as they need me, like kind of describing this codependent relationship. And I think it really helps heal Dream from this traumatic event that he went through.
Well, uh, being that this is episode 6, right? This is episode 6, and this is the first time we get another member of the family and seeing what their function is. Even though we got Desire last episode at the very end, and at the end of this episode as well. Um, Everybody else that we've dealt with has been human or the devil or a demon. So we have yet to, like, this is the first time we're actually finally meeting a member of this quote unquote family of the D's. That's what I'm gonna call them. The family of the D's: death, desire, dreams, and destruction. Is there anybody else?
I think there's more. Hold on, I'm just gonna pull it up because I think I have it on my iPad all ready to go. Let's see. Okay, here we go. So all the siblings include, we have Destiny, Death, Dream, Destruction, Desire, and Delirium, otherwise known as Delight.
See, all D's right there. So
All these.
so far we've only met Death, right? And it was in watching her, and how she was talking, and then we're kind of seeing this path that they're taking. I was like, before she even said it, I was like, or no, because he mentioned it, and before he mentioned it, I was like, oh, this is the person that the Magus was initially trying to lock up. And he brought it up to her. He's like, yo, he was actually trying to trap you. And she was like, yeah, I know. So with that being said, her knowing that and still not doing anything to get him out of it. I don't know how I feel about Death, just because she kind of let him rot in the cell, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we talked about it, I think, in the first episode, because obviously it was established, like, the siblings and this and that. Obviously, we were led to assume Death was, like, the father of the siblings, but we learned that she's actually one of the siblings herself. And we talked about, like, okay, well, it seems like they must have some awareness, or we could assume maybe they would know that he's locked up, and if they know, why haven't they done anything? And this gives us an answer of, like, they did know he was locked up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's right, they did absolutely nothing. They even had, like, a damn family dinner or something.
Right.
It's like none of them were like, hey, we know where our brother is, like, should we do something? All we really have to do is break the glass, man. Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And so, I mean, I think we will get some answer. But yeah, I'm not her. I loved her up until, like, that response. I was kind of like, because she's like, I know, you know what I mean. Like, it wasn't like that, but it's kind of like that, where she was just like, I'm aware, and he's like, oh, it's
right.
Just,
he was taken aback,
yeah.
like he was like, like you knew. It's like, so I spent 100 years and you all were just chilling. Like, I'd be salty. I would. F whatever lesson you're trying to teach me. Nah. You left me.
That's what I'm saying. But something, just to kind of look at, like, at a different side of this, I think what was really cool about that, though, is it kind of gave us a little bit of a context of his time when he was captured, because obviously he was being tortured and left to rot, and repeatedly being asked by the Magus to summon death, how to get death, how to, all these things. And I think he obviously had, the ability to call for death, but he never did, because he's protecting his big sister. Like, it was, like, never an option for him. Like, he chose to, just stay silent, where he would have had, a chance to have escaped just by like maybe summoning her and having her stay in this place, but he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, yeah, I was a little icky about that. Like, I hope they kind of explain it. I hope that's not just the last time they're going to mention that, because it's like, dude, this guy was like locked up in his entire realm,
Mm-hmm.
was destroyed. People never woke up out of their sleep. Like, this was a catalyst of some horrible events.
Right. And I feel like even as whatever their purpose is, whether if it's death, desire, destruction, or whatever their deed that's out there, while he was locked up, all of like the humans were suffering, and I would imagine that every one of these deities, they not necessarily feed off the humans, but like you said, it's like Death said, they need them just as much as, or we need them as much as they need us. You know what I'm saying? So being that there was so much turmoil for when Dream was locked up, why not do something?
Exactly. And also, it's like, Death more than any of them has this connection with, people, right? Like, she's so connected with them. She's so empathetic to their needs. And so if she's seeing, obviously, that people are just being sentenced to this like death like sleep, um, it wouldn't alert her to try to do something, if not to protect her brother,
Right.
her younger brother.
Mm-hmm.
If for some reason there was something there that wouldn't allow her, at least for the sake of humanity, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely fair criticism there on her, towards her.
Listen. I'm watching this, and I'm seeing in between the lines. You know what I'm saying? It was to the point to where these people would rather let the the humans suffer, let Dream suffer. They're just wreaking havoc, and Death is over here just like, okay, I'll see you in a sec. Like, and that's she did to that soccer player. She's like, oh yeah, it's nice to meet you. Yeah. He's like, can I see you? He's like, huh. And she responds like, oh, you will soon. I was like, oh damn, it's over.
Like that.
It's
Yeah.
over.
But okay, so a couple things at this, because I think this episode you can safely kind of say it splits into two things. It's Dream and Death, and then we get this other kind of history with this other character, that I love, and we'll get to just in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But this first segment gets us a couple of things. So we hear about, Death was missed. Oh, sorry, Dream was missed, but also something called the Prodigal, which has been missing.
Mm-hmm.
Did you catch
I
that?
did, and just from watching it, it's like I remember the name, and I was just like, I've never heard of that, like throughout the series yet. So we haven't been introduced to it yet.
Yeah, this is like a new thing, which I'm sure we're going to hear more about. And then we also get, I'm just kind of going through. So we go through these different. We kind of follow Death on her day in a life,
Yeah.
right? What she does daily. This is her job. This is her function. And she, meets with people. They take a pause and they kind of instinctually know who she is, and then she guides them into whatever that next part of life is. And I do love the way that they kind of juxtaposed, like, the moment that they walk away, they're off screen, but you see and hear like the flapping of the
Mm-hmm.
wings, to suggest that they're going to heaven, something above. They're
Yeah.
not digging holes and going to hell. And so I thought that was a cool visual. I loved the peacefulness that was displayed in this like adaptation of what death is and what it looks
Mm-hmm.
like. And the scene where she goes into like the baby's room, I was like, not the baby,
Right.
not the
Right.
baby.
Mm-hmm.
But it's she has this very positive take and attitude, and when it comes towards their gifts, because obviously the humans, whether they're ready for it or not, they're going to receive this gift that
Mm-hmm.
she has, because it's coming for all of
Mm-hmm.
us. And she has this very like optimistic view on what she does as a job, and I think it really enlightens Dream to realize that his like reason, his like to be, is all within his function, and that's kind of what he realizes. And also because he's very dismissive of humans and like what is that, very dismissive of like humans. I think this is my watch. I'll get it in just a bit. But he kind of realizes like, okay, like I need humans as much as they need me. And I think that was a big takeaway of
Right.
this. I'm gonna walk off for a moment.
Okay.
Take it over.
I gotcha.
Second.
Okay. So from there, I think they go their separate ways, but in going their separate ways, Sandman, he arrives at a pub, and from here, I wasn't expecting this story to come of this, but this is the story of him and, let's call him his BFF, being that he doesn't really have any friends. Let's just say that
That's fair.
the pub is the story of him and his BFF, and initially, Dream and Death, they go into a pub. I think that's the start of every joke, every bar joke.
Oh yeah,
Dream
and
and
this is
Death
like the
go into a
origin of
pub.
it. And this is like the origin of
Right,
it.
right, and they go in, and I don't even think it was like a wager. It was just more so a conversation, just to prove that, is it to prove that humans will eventually yearn for death?
That's kind of what he's doing. He's like, I bet you in 100 years he's going to be begging for death, and so it's very much like an experiment. And I think it's just so funny the way that they did this, because it was very almost like out of the blue, and obviously, centuries passed by, and despite different parts of this man's like evolution, he still doesn't feel different. Like
Right.
he still sees this eternal life as a gift, and he um yeah, it kind of like meets into the present at that point. And keep in mind, this started back in like 1389.
Right. Right. It's
And before we even get to like that part of the storyline, we do get Death ask Dream regarding what's his name, Hob, right? And he mentions that he hasn't seen him in quite some time, like he missed their last meeting. And the way that the Death talks about it, it's as almost as if like she has spoken to him as
mm,
well, because he's like, oh, like I'm sure he like he'd love to see you or something like that. It just seemed familiar, like not too distant. But this storyline was definitely something I didn't expect, because it almost feels like this is two parts in one.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, it could have been two episodes, but they kind of blended it into one. Um, and so, like you mentioned, like this happened in or started in 1389. Their first meeting is in 100 years later, 1489. And at this point, Hobb just has a lot of questions. Like he's like, "Who are you? What is this?" So far he's still very pleased with living forever.
Right.
He's like, "Wow, the inventions, cards, tissue, chimneys," and Dream kind of passive aggressively is just like, what will you humans like create next,
Mm-hmm. But he kind of seemed unimpressed, because I feel like after the first 100, I think he was just like, but what did you do though? Like, I think he was just kind of just like, did I just waste this wish on this guy that didn't really do anything? But I think it was maybe the next century to where he does become almost like royalty, right?
Yes, it's in 1589 that Hobb, now referred to as Sir Robert Gavlin, has built up like this generational wealth, and he has like a son or some not son, he's expecting, I think, at this
Mm-hmm.
point. And it's kind of like that one character in Eternals, because he says he's come back as his son several
Yeah.
times.
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he has a wife named Eleanor, a son named Robin on the way. He has this rich life, all these things, and there's men in the corner. So this part's kind of cool. We get like these men in the corner, like talking about like gods and these other things, and we meet Will Shakespeare, which we more commonly know as William Shakespeare.
Right, right. Initially, when they were talking about the playwright, and I was like, what was the last name? Just listening to how they pronounce the last name, I was like, it's similar to Shakespeare, and stage names, our history of stage names and everything like that. So I just assumed that that was Shakespeare right there.
Yeah, and I actually really love how this was, because the reason Dream is so like kind of attracted by the conversation is because they're describing his plays as something that provokes dreams, and
Mm-hmm.
inspires dreams. And obviously, this is it is his realm.
Right.
So he gravitates towards the conversation, and off screen we they have some kind of a deal we don't really know the details
Mm-hmm.
of, but I'm sure Dream is part of the reason that William Shakespeare is still known today.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah.
And was it? It wasn't that century to where the first meeting of Constantine, right?
No, not yet. That would be, I think it was like the second to last one is
Okay.
when Constantine comes in. But 1689, I think this is where Hob is drunk and homeless and
Right.
hungry.
Mhm.
And he, if not for the fact that he has eternal life, he would have starved from long ago, it
Yeah.
seems. He's lost all his riches. His son at 20 was killed in a brothel, or in like a
A
bar or
bar
something
fight.
like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, bar fight, there you go. And then his second son died, along with the wife and childbirth. And
Right.
so he's had like really bad luck in this century.
Yeah, like cause I think of the time before, like he actually showed, like he had like a pocket painting. He's like, oh, here's my wife and child right here. Look at that, and it was fast forward to come to find out that I guess well that child lived and then died in the bar fight, and then his next child died with his wife. So
Yep. And despite that, he still says he has much to live for, and so even then he defies what Dream thought. And I think the reason that, like in the first meeting that they have, he's so unimpressed is more so because I just really, he doesn't understand humans.
hmm
He doesn't understand why they do what they do, like their function. He has a hard time understanding like that. Like he doesn't get it.
right.
And this is still what's his name, Hob. He talks about how in this, we're still talking about the 1689 meeting, he got cocky and stayed for 40 years in the same place, and people tried to drown him as a witch because they obviously noticed he wasn't aging. And so, but again, despite the luck, he's like, I still have a lot to live for.
hmm Um, that's one thing, and that's like when it comes down to like eternal life, and it's just something that I've always just kind of what if, and if it came down to the point to where you have the chance to live forever, right? What
Mm-hmm.
what? Because I'm just like there's no way you can really be public like that. Like even though we get in the Eternals, it's like oh, it's like you're reborn as the sun or whatnot. I feel like people would catch on, and even with that, like Dream made the point is like yeah, you can't die, but you can still be harmed. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. Even though it would seem cool, like oh, I can live to see the future and what other inventions come. It's scary to think that because if people catch on, then you're in danger.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Cullens in Twilight. They do the same thing. They move away for a while and they come back, and then they just keep cycling back and forth from the two different places. Um, and so, yeah, it's like, I think it's one of those things where initially it sounds like a great thing, but in reality, it actually sounds like a very miserable life.
A
Like,
hundred
imagine
percent.
like losing all the people that you love,
Mhm.
and then at that point you're like alone.
Yeah.
It's just it sounds like a sad life, but apparently not for Hob. And in 1789 we see him regain his riches. He's involved in the slave trade, and so that's make him a lot of money.
Mhm.
That's definitely something that Dream criticizes of, saying like one man was not meant to enslave another. And it's funny because this meeting in 1789, it sets, or it's very what's the word, there's a lot of situational irony because they mention a lot of things that are very clearly almost going to switch to what happens to Dream, right? They talk about like one man enslaving another.
Mhm.
Dream even warns him, like, you can't die, but you can still be hurt. You can still be captured. Be cautious. And there's just so much irony because obviously this is Dream saying these things to Ha, but not long after, this is exactly what happens to him.
But there's a slight difference just simply for the fact that his capture was an accident. You get me? Like say Hob would have to be careful because he's living the same life, and then people can catch on to that. If the Magus did the spell correctly and properly captured death, then that wouldn't have happened to Dream. So
Sure, but the main thing is like he got captured all the same, you know, and I think the thing that it showcases is like he just like Hob is eternal, he can't die,
mm-hmm.
um, but we know that there are, and you know, to some would say like worse things, you
Yeah.
know, and so oh, something we missed because in the 1789 meeting, this is where we see Joanna
Mm-hmm.
Constantine, but it's the meeting in 1689 where someone draws a picture of the two of them having this conversation in the tavern, and that sets up the, you know, the confrontation that Joanna has with Dream and Hob in 1789.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's like almost like a legend at that point, like the devil meets with the Jew in the in like a bar, and he's like, I'm not the devil and I'm not Jewish.
Well, then that now that kind of puts into perspective, just like on some who who is the person who made the initial drawing in the 1600s, and if that were the case, then somebody from the 1500s knew about it to warn them to get that picture.
And maybe it was the tavern owner. Who knows? I feel like that would be the make the most sense. Like it passes down from generation to
Mm-hmm.
generation. You know, like maybe the one of the previous owners overheard a small piece of the conversation, mentioned it to his kids, and then, you know, lo and behold, 100 years later, mentions, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, I think would make the most sense. So I think you're right. Like I think it kind of starts off with like I think the guy had. There we go. I think the guy intentionally drew this picture because he had a hunch of what this was, and that's where like the rumor began. You know, the
Mm-hmm.
devil and the Jew. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Even though he wasn't Jewish, it was just weird that they called him that.
even though exactly, but you know, this is kind of referring to what we hear in episode I think 2 or 3, where Dream says that he's known the Constantines for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and let's see, in 1889, this is where like the relationship between Dream and Hob kind of start to drift because, you know, Dream is so stuck on the idea that he does not need them, like he doesn't need his friendship. Like how can you assume that your friendship means anything to me, kind of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on that kind of thought process, if you will.
Right. Um, I wouldn't even think it was like a bold statement because I think Dream took it as bold. But I think it was just more so, you know, it's like something that he noticed, like, hey, this guy, he keeps coming back to chat and see how my life was or whatnot. I would think that this guy is actually trying to be my friend. It's like it started as an experiment, but really, I feel like we're just hanging out, having some beers, you know, kicking back.
We're
And,
friends.
right, we're buds, man.
Like, and the thing is, and this is I think the part is like Dream has such a like grand sense of self, you know, like he's so up on his high horse, and I think that's the irony part of like their meeting in 1789. Like he's
Mm-hmm.
warning him like, yes, you're immortal, but worse things can happen, you can be hurt, you can be captured, be cautious. But I really do believe at this point he thinks he's above that, you know, like he doesn't understand that that's actually a very similar thing that could happen to him, and ultimately it does, right? Like his hubris. I mean, we
Yeah,
talked about it
like,
last time.
yeah, we I think that is the ongoing theme to where Dream, though he is one of many in his family, he believes he's the quote unquote supreme being. You know, everything is below him and question it, and he has no idea. It's like preposterous. So like the idea of love, and it's like he didn't really know anything about it, and then we find out later that he did fall in love with that woman that's in hell right now. And then the idea of friendship, you know, it's like, oh, friendship is so beneath me, you think I need this? It's like, come on, man. Like, who are you really chilling with? Like, what's the, is it Lucian, like his assistant? Is it?
Lucienne.
Yeah, so Lucian is the assistant, but I don't really think that's more so friendship. I think Lucian is just loyal just because that's his creator or her creator, you know? So,
Well, I don't think that's his creator, because I don't think Lucienne's like a dream or a nightmare. I mean, who knows? But it hasn't been like stated. But like I feel like it is a friendship, but it's like I don't think he acknowledges it as such. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
mm-hmm,
this. It's obviously a friendship, but I think for him, it's like he has such an ego that he can't see themselves as equals. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, it's hard for him to think of it as a friendship, you know, because he's like, it's kind of like, well, I'm not even on, you're not even on my level, you
Right.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he gets humbled real quickly. You know, he loses everything. He realizes he's not above these things that he thinks he is.
Right. Um, and it was the next entry to where he's locked in the dungeon of the Magus. Yes.
Let me see. I think is it the 1989 one where he doesn't show, or is it? I think it's the 1999. No, no, hold on. I'm lost in the years.
Well,
Anyways,
19 yeah, I would say 1989. If
that's
89
right.
is the year, 89 the that's
His
where he
content.
was locked up with the Magus. So
There you
I'm
go.
guessing right now the present is 2089. Is that where we're at?
That's what it seems like. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Just curious.
Yeah, and that's really like as far as my notes go. So honestly, I don't remember what happened at the rest of the episode. I
Uh
know we finished with Desire, but but I don't know the details. It's like his lair.
yeah, it's like a layer inside of a huge statue of himself. But like say as far as the story, the B story of it really ended with being that he misses 1989. He goes back to the pub, and as you see, it's close, right? But there are signs pointing to a new pub or a new version of the pub. And I would have thought, being that Dream missed the meeting in 1989, and the guy, he looked pretty well off. Like he had the cell phone, the block cell phone from back in the day. So being that he heard the pub was closing, I would have thought that he would have done anything to keep the pub open just for another chance to meet Dream. So let's say he is now a part of the new pub, like let's say as an investor or something like that. This is all speculation, of course, but no matter what, he knew one day his friend was going to come back, and that's how the episode ended for them.
Sure, I think that makes sense to me because yeah, I feel like when we see him in the us meeting where he didn't show, he was very like you know, he didn't seem angry or anxious. I mean, he waited till like the nighttime. You
Yeah.
know, like I think he seemed like I want to say the word peaceful. Like it just seems like he's got his stuff together. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and he does seem like he's well off. And I feel like he's been humbled. He doesn't have like the hubris that he had in like say the year that he was, you know, like I have my wife and I have my
Right.
kid and all these things. Like he's definitely learned from all these years. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like I don't know. I'm curious to see what their next meeting is gonna look like. You know, because it's their friends, and I wonder if this
Mm-hmm.
is the point. Because obviously, Dream had this conversation with Death, and you know, after the events with Magus, like I feel like he's been humbled enough to like accept the fact that they are friends.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think that's what it was. It was realizing that even though he was locked away, right, and everything that happened to him since, and yeah, he got all of his items back. I think this episode made it clear that something was kind of missing, you know. So it was kind of good to see that he has a human friend. Like, because if we're gonna say Lucien or Lucian is his friend, that's someone of the dream world, and to learn from somebody from the human world every 100 years is, I don't know. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool concept, and he can just check in every 100 to see how everything's going, you know. So check in with his human friend.
I like it. I really do. And you know, I think, you know, the takeaway really from like the first half of the episode is like he learns that one, it's like let's be real, like our function is to serve them, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is humbling because I don't think he's ever really had that kind of a perspective, right? He has
Mm-hmm.
this like I am the king of my realm, and like he's just very above all, right? He's very demanding. He just expects people to fold over. We saw that in episode 2 and 3. And so I think this is a concept he really hasn't digested, and along with that is like realizing like we need them like just as much as they need us. Like this is a codependent relationship, and I
Yeah.
think that really puts him in the place of like they are my equals, you know, in a sense.
I would say just with the ending of this episode with the desire, I would say if we were to cut some scenes for this to be a little better, I would have cut the last few seconds of desire out of the last episode and then just introduce him here, just because he's talking here. He's like, my brother's out of the cage. Da 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 da. So it's just like he's like, oh, I have a plan. You know, that plan failed. I got another plan. You know, so. I think if anything, it would have been better if we got the introduction here as opposed to the last episode because nothing happened with him at all. You see what I'm saying?
I do. I totally do. I mean, it's not like if we didn't get the scene in the last episode, it's not like we're missing anything because this episode it does what it did, which is just establish him as a character. It's not like we needed to know who he was during this episode, and it's not like it's not like we would have missed much. So I get that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of them kind of holding this string of like, oh, you still haven't met him, like you know what I mean? Like,
right.
I can see, I think why they did it, but in terms of like the function of it, like it, they could have given the purpose would have been served regardless. So yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like by now, if this is episode 6, right, and there's 10 episodes total.
I believe so. Yeah.
I was hoping by now we would have gotten more D's. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. We just got Death. Desire's coming eventually. It may just be another cameo to the end of the next episode. We don't know. You know what I'm saying? But I feel like we should know more of this family by this point.
Yeah, I understand. That makes sense. I'm with it. Like I think. I think early episodes it was all about the items, and so
Yeah.
with the episodes we have remaining, I think they laid it out kind of nicely. We have it's almost like there was an episode for each item in a sense. There was a filler episode in the middle with like just the weird crap that happened with John, and then now we're meeting each of like I think the siblings and like this was all about Death. Maybe the next one will be all about Desire, and we'll meet some of the other ones along the way.
Sure.
So I feel like it's a cool layout. It's like we mentioned the last time. It's almost like every episode feels like something from a different series. Like you know what I mean? They don't follow the same rhythm, which is like it keeps you on your toes and it's interesting because you really don't know what to expect. And I think the last episode really set up the pace that I guess they can just give us whatever because it's that kind of show. So I like the way they're doing it. I like the way that they're stretching it out.
Do you think it stays dark, or do you think it'll lighten up a little bit?
I think the only light thing, like thing that's like is gonna be like the Raven. I think it's just Matthew, but that's it. I don't
we
think
didn't even get much of him.
else.
Just thinking about it, he wasn't in this episode at all.
He wasn't in it. It makes no sense. Why is he not with them?
I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know.
TBD. He left hell and was just like, yeah, nah, I'm out.
I don't know, but overall, like this show is it's good. I'm liking the show still. I feel like each episode is kind of building off the other, and I'm enjoying it. Like I don't think there's a single episode I wasn't a fan of really.
Yeah, like this one was one of the slower episodes. Of course, there weren't any blood and guts. Of course, nobody exploding or anything like that. So, we'll see because I want to see more in terms of aside from him putting people to sleep. Let's get more. Even though the ruby exploded, I want to see him make some people explode. If the ruby is of him, he should be able to do that like on command. Snap his fingers, boom, explosion. So I would love to see.
Are you confusing the ruby with the pendant of protection?
Oh yeah, never mind. Damn it. That was the pendant of protection.
Yeah.
My bad.
I mean, keep in mind, like the ruby makes anything come true, like true dream wise. So if he wanted someone to explode, he could make it happen. But I realized you were getting the two confused because obviously it's the pendant with
Yep. Well, that throws that out.
Done.
Well, what I'm saying is I just hope it, even though this was one of the slower paced ones, I'm hoping that if Desire, because we have Desire and we still have Corinthian out there somewhere, we need something to where the clash is coming. You know what I'm saying? It's just this episode we didn't get it. Maybe the next one is where the conflict starts to come. But yeah, we're just waiting on it right now.
Yes, and I'm looking up something super quickly. I just kind of want to see. Okay, so we will see Lucifer at least one more time.
Of course, she's salty.
She's salty. So, I mean, on your point of like hopefully seeing a little bit more of that action and just kind of like what we saw a little bit in the previous episode, or not previous, but episode 4. I think I think it's coming. We're probably gonna see another confrontation between Lucifer and Dream.
Yeah. Yep. Is that whistle on your side or mine?
That was me. I don't know what's up with the neighbors today, man. It's weird. It's weird today.
They're
Who's
whistling?
whistling? And why can't I hear it through the walls?
It's weird.
So weird. Guys, what if all this is a ghost? Imagine this ghost is haunted and I don't even know it.
You better call somebody, exorcist.
It's like a scary movie. It's like a scary movie where the ghost is trying so hard to scare, like, you know, the character that's being played by what's her name, Anna something, but and then she's just so oblivious to it. That's exactly what's happening right now.
Oh, like Scary Movie, like the Scary Movie. Is that what you're talking about? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm thinking you were referencing like any scary movie. You're talking about
no.
Anna Faris.
There you go. Or
Yeah.
even like in Beetlejuice, when like the couple's trying to be scary, but it's just not happening. You know,
Yeah.
it's kind of like that. I think that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're going through that. Your neighbors and your ghosts are putting you through that.
Man, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. It's crazy. It's insanity. That's okay. Like I said, like we're not light sleepers here, so it doesn't bother us. It's more so just like, how dare you? You know, it's like the audacity.
Well, luckily, listen, when I first moved into this spot, my downstairs neighbor, because I live on the second floor, is only 2 floors, but my downstairs neighbor, he was somewhat either of a karaokeist or he was practicing for like, I don't know, some performance, but like there were times to where it'd be like 10 o'clock at night and I can hear the bass from his speakerphone of his voice, and he's not singing in English, it's something foreign as well, you know. So there was a point to where I was like, okay, this is kind of getting old, but I know it's an old couple that lives underneath, and I feel like it may have gotten to the point to where the wife had enough, and since I think I heard some yells one day, and then I haven't heard any karaokeing ever since. So thank you, thank you, wife.
I'm a big karaokeer. I am, and I sing all the time. Like Sundays, I'm just singing the whole day as I'm making cleaning and stuff. But it's fine. I feel like I've racked in enough like points where I'm like, okay, like you guys owe me. I can be as loud as I want, like on random occasions, because you guys are a mess. Like there's no way you guys can come downstairs and complain.
Oh sure.
You have no place to do so. I swear to God, you're throwing bowling balls on the floor.
Yep.
Honestly, I prefer it that they're the loud ones or that they're upstairs, because honestly, if we were upstairs, I think that we would be a bigger annoyance if I'm being honest, just because we're kind of rowdy.
Was that on my side?
What?
I may be over here because I heard another noise.
I didn't hear that one.
Either way, I'm tired of recording noises. Oh, that is here. What is she drilling or something? All right. We are done recording noises over here. This has been another episode of the Comic Cinematic Universe with Chill and Grace. We'll be back. We're back next week, or are you off next week?
We still meet next week. We just have a different day, and I'll tell you guys right now live. I'm gonna look it up real quickly because we have the calendar outlined. But next week we are breaking down She-Hulk episode 6, I believe. Let me just double check.
Oh, on Thursday instead of Friday, right?
Let's see. What are we doing? You know something? Because today we did a little bit of a different schedule. So we'll just confirm episode-wise. But we are meeting on the 19th, guys. So the 19th at 5:30 p.m. is when we're going to be doing our next episode. Just because I will be in the happiest place on earth on Friday.
Oh, we're on Monday. That's where
we're on Monday, guys.
Gotcha. For sure. All right. Well, I'm going to see what is going on outside. So, Grace, you have an amazing weekend, okay? And everybody else, you all have a great weekend, and we will see you all on Monday.
Farewell.
Bye.